All right, guys. So we're joined by one of the best up and coming fighters in MMA. In my opinion, at least, I've been a big fan of this guy for some time now. Archie Colgan. He's fresh off a KO victory in August, and now he's back in action against Jesse Hanam at Bellator 288 on November 18th, if I'm not mistaken. How's it
Yes,
going
sir.
today, man?
Man, it's good. I appreciate the kind words. Life's good. Camp's been good. A lot of times these last few camps, at least, I've had some bumps and bruises going into the fights. There's some minor things, but just like, I feel great. Like, this has been a great camp for me.
Yeah, definitely. You've had some, whether it was a hand injury or this, that, and the other. So this has been, it's safe to say that this camp has been relatively smooth sailing.
Yeah, man. Like, I've had, plenty of notice of the fight. I've had a full training camp. First time going down in 155, but I've had, I hired my dietitian. She's the best. So she's doing a great job of doing that. I feel good. Yeah, man, camp's been great.
Yeah, so the cut and everything, you said you hired a dietitian. Has it been maybe like a drastic change for you, or has the cut been just fine for you? Is it more like a mental struggle or no struggle at all?
It's no struggle at the moment. Obviously, so weigh-in is
right. Still got to approach Thursday, that day, yeah.
Right. So that Wednesday night where I'm going to cut my weight, that's going to suck regardless.
Yeah.
But no, like right now, she just does a really good job of keeping me fed and keeping track of like just my nutrition and stuff. And she does a really good job of like just understanding, how my weight is fluctuating. We've been doing it. We've worked together the past two camps also. But just like, she just understands my body, and she does a good job of tracking all that stuff and staying on top of it, checking on me every day. So, I feel great right now. I feel probably better than I did, when I was 5 pounds heavier. So I feel great, but, I do know that Wednesday night is gonna, it's gonna suck to cut that weight.
Yeah, man, I hear you. Well, I mean, I can't relate, right? Because I'm not a fighter, but I can definitely hear you on that. But as I like to do a lot of times, especially you specifically, because you just fought, I want to touch a little bit on the last time we saw you in action quite recently in August. It was a last minute change of opponent. Didn't seem to affect you in any way. What do you make of the fight now? Like, is there any big takeaways that you get from that maybe you could take into this next camp?
Yeah. So I would say like my biggest takeaway was like, I should just be more comfortable sitting down on my punches earlier. I think a little bit of the hesitancy was that I hurt my hand in my fight prior, and this is my first fight back. So I didn't know, like in training and sparring and stuff, at least me, I'm not trying to kill my teammates. So I'm not trying to hit them 100%. So I never threw that thing 100% until I was actually fighting. And I think I could have stopped him earlier in the fight if I had just sat down on my punches in the first couple of rounds. Because in that between the second and third round, going back to the corner, my coach said, "Hey man, we got to get the finish. Like, it's been good. Like, yeah, you're winning and it's great, but like we got to get the finish." So that first exchange, maybe it was the second exchange, but in the third round, I sat down on those punches and really put him down. That was the beginning to the end for him. So I think my takeaway was just trust my ability to sit down on those punches and, to counter and move my head from in those situations, in those exchanges.
And he was a guy that had a lot of, well, at least a good number of pro fights, right? Was it like a really good experience to just be able to go 15 minutes, 3 hard rounds with a guy who has a lot of experience?
Yeah. So I didn't tip myself,
tough guy too, because you were throwing some bombs in there.
Yeah, he was. I knew that part. I knew that he was like a physically tough person for the damage that he took. I knew that after the fight. But I went back and I looked through his record and I saw, a couple of the guys that he had lost to just a unanimous decision, but they're doing like really well in Bellator. And so I was like, oh dang, this guy's tougher than I gave him credit for, as an athlete, not as just a tough guy being able to take damage, like as an athlete. I was like, oh dang, this guy's actually tougher than I thought. And, I gave myself a little bit more credit when I noticed that those guys who fought him couldn't finish him. I finished him, first guy to finish him. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, he was a tough fight, tough fighter. But yeah, I plan on doing similar to the same to this next opponent, but ideally quicker.
And obviously, speaking of that next opponent, I don't know, do you watch tape on certain, because some fighters they don't watch tape, other fighters they like to sort of watch tape, or but again, other fighters like to let their coaches handle it. Where are you on that scale?
I watch. I think as I progress, I'll probably watch a little bit more into detail, and we'll probably do like a full sit down as a team, like coaches and me, and do like a full sit down. But for this one, like, yeah, I watched 3 or 4 of his fights, maybe 2 or 3. Just a handful of fights, but basically just to like see what he's like. Is he an orthodox or is he southpaw? Okay, is he taller? Is he shorter? Just like things like that. Just some basic tendencies and just the style of fighter that he is, more so than like trying to pick him apart and be like, all right, he does this with his left hand, so I'm gonna counter that. I haven't gone into detail like that. It's mainly just like, okay, he leads with his left foot and his left hand, right? And he seems to be a little bit of an inside fighter or an outside fighter, like that kind of stuff. Just so I have like a good understanding. And then I just sharpen my tools.
Yeah. And Jesse Anam, I think, has just a few pro fights, right? You fought guys with, again, we just mentioned the last guy, 12 plus fights or whatever the case may be. Do you think there's certain spots where you'll be able to expose his game, maybe because of certain aspects like that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say because of my prior fight, or I guess a little bit because of that. I'm building experience as I go for sure. But, just like I train with, really high level people too. So I'm able to see and feel, just what it's like to be in that that fight or flight moment a little bit and embracing it instead of running from it. And also like just kind of like how a high level fighter thinks and moves and operates when they are on the offensive side and the defensive side, right? So I think I'm gonna have just a distinct advantage in that aspect. Plus, I just believe I'm a better fighter and athlete in general.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned the training, right? Obviously, you train with guys like Gaethje, Usman, and all that. But I mean, what's it like to pick guys' brains like that? Is that something that you would say has attributed to your hot start? Because, I don't know exactly how long you've been there in Denver with those guys specifically, but obviously you look very good right out of the gate. So I gotta feel like, when you have guys like that around you, it certainly helps to a certain degree.
Yeah, it does for sure. So like they obviously they drop knowledge bombs all the time that if you're arrogant and which you'll be surprised on even guys like who are in my level or guys who are coming up would still be arrogant and not want to listen. But if you're just listening and you're not arrogant about it, they drop so many knowledge bombs that like it's important to just listen and take them in and take them for what they're worth. Sometimes they might say go do that, but that doesn't apply to you, right? That doesn't work for you. That's not what you do. So then you don't have to say yes to that, right? But then the 3 other things that they said, they might apply to you, but if you turned yourself away because of the one thing, just things like that. People are, I think that's with all situations. Like everybody's got something to offer. But obviously when you get to guys who are, very successful in your field, like those two and others that I'm around, I open my ears up a little bit more and definitely turn the ego or arrogance or anything that I would have, which I don't have for them, or really with anybody. I take everybody's word, but I turn all of that down for sure because I want to make sure that like I'm able to retain as much of that as I can, because at some point I'm gonna have to in my career I'm gonna like cross that road where they're talking about right now. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna say like, hey man, like there's gonna be a time in the fight where you're gonna have to dig deep. You guys are going into war, and you're gonna have to go dig deep in that 30 seconds left. You're gonna have to get that takedown. I know you're tied, your arms are. You're gonna have to, and you're like, man, yeah, I finished him in a second. Stuff like that. And then that time comes, and you're like, fuck. So I want to always be like, I always want to like listen to guys, obviously because they're the top of the top, but also because I think that they like truly are looking out for my best interests, and they're only telling me these things because it's going to be relevant in my life.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I'm not expecting like an exact timeline of fights or anything like that, right? But you said, you'll cross that road eventually, right? I mean, what are you, 27 years old now?
Yeah.
I mean, how far is that road right now?
What do you mean?
Like you're saying, eventually you're gonna have to cross that road, right? Meaning in terms of
Yeah.
like the wisdom nuggets these guys give you and all that. But that's because these guys are giving you these wisdom nuggets because they've been in those high leverage fight situations, right? So that's what you referred
Yeah.
to by
Yeah.
one day you'll cross that road. One day you'll be in those high leverage moments,
Yeah.
high leverage fights. So how far do you think, man? Like you're obviously a young guy. I'm not telling you to put like a specific number on it, but
Yeah.
like when do you envision these big fights, these big moments, like these high ranked fights and things like that happening? Obviously, you don't want to rush the process, but what do you
Yeah.
envision?
Man, like honestly, the way that I'm taking them, like when they tell me those knowledge bombs and stuff, the way that I'm taking them is that it could happen this next fight. Really is I'm
Okay.
like, shit, like you're right, man. What if you do wake up one day with a stomach bug and that day happens to be fight day? You still have to go fight. And then you go out there and you don't have your best performance, and this guy's not gonna stop. Right. And you got to find a way through the fight. Like that's the way I mainly take it on my behalf. It's like, and maybe that like on experience wise, it doesn't sound like that's probably what's gonna happen like right up front. But I'm expecting it to be like as if this would be this coming fight, that this guy does not want to get put away. He's going to continue to fight, and I'm going to have to scrape and crawl for every point that I can get out of this. And in that preparation, hopefully, I'll do my job beforehand. But if not, I got to be prepared to go 3 rounds and to get that last 30-second takedown to win the fight and stuff like that. But like in time frame for like world championship fights and stuff, I think a couple years. I still want to build myself up. I don't know. Like I believe my talents and my skills are ready at the moment. Like I really do. I obviously am getting better every day, and I'm going to continue to get better. And I need to sharpen up on things because I'm not the best Archie that I can be. But like I do think right now, like I'm a problem for anybody who wanted to fight me. I do think that.
Yeah. And obviously we can't control the future, right? So, I say specifically in a perfect world, what would be next for you? Like, would it be another up and coming fighter like yourself, so just another tough guy to continue to prove yourself, something like that, maybe, or something else?
Um, yeah, I would like a guy who's also 5, 6, 7-0, or another guy who's like a little bit more veteran and seasoned and has a couple of losses, but he's also proven himself in some wins. But yeah, definitely like another step up in towards the competition. Um, yeah, that's like my ideal situation. I want to continue to challenge myself and push myself. Um, I'll get after this fight. This will be a test in itself, and then after that, yeah, I would like another guy who's in a similar situation to me, who's believes that this is his calling and this is what he's going to be doing for the next 10 years, and he believes he's going to be a world champion. And I'd like to take that away from him.
Yeah, for sure. And I heard you mention even in the, obviously, again, you don't want to look ahead, but I heard you mention in the last fight, the post-fight press conference that, even Justin Montalvo, you'd like to get in there with, right? It was a fight that was canceled that didn't
Yeah,
get to come through. We had him on the show like a few months ago, and I think that would be a really fun fight. So, hey, man, you never know, but that'd be
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. So that was the fight that I accepted to
Right.
take, and then I'm not sure what happened. I think I heard something that he got hurt. So that's unfortunate. I hope he got better. But yeah, I don't have any ill intention toward that guy. I don't even know. But I think that he's a good competitor, and I think it'd be a good fight for the both of us in our careers towards whatever it is that it's going to end up being.
Yeah, definitely. And, I'm sure you've heard this before, right? But you'll hear, certain people say, or whether you're veterans or people that have lost, maybe that there's a certain arrogance that comes to an undefeated fighter, just meaning in the sense that like maybe there's a lack of fear, a lack of, I guess, ignorance is bliss, right? Because you haven't lost yet. Like, how do you manage that kind of stuff? Because I'm not saying that's you, but I mean, I've
Yeah.
heard that before for undefeated fighters, young fighters as well. You're kind of in between that scale, right? How do you sort of manage that stuff? Do you just never underestimate your opponent? Do you, there's so many ways to sort of go about that, but like, what is your take on that?
Um, So a couple of different things. Like, I don't underestimate my opponent because at any point, I coach a kids wrestling club, right?
Yeah,
Kids
you like
wrestling.
coaching, right?
Yeah. So at any point, I can go in there and a kid who is just a sophomore in high school, if he punched me in the right spot, can knock me out. No train, no nothing. You know what I mean? So like, this guy is trained. He believes he took the fight. He believes he has something that will give me a problem or to give him the win. So I don't underestimate anybody who's willing to sign that line and take the fight with me. But also in doing that, I don't just sit there and think like I'm undefeated. I'm going to be Mr. Undefeated the whole time. Like, in my head, I've lost so many times in wrestling,
Yeah.
like the biggest tournament that I ever wanted to since I was a little kid, that got me to drive through to being a Division I wrestler, was to be an All-American and a national champion in college. I did not get either one of those. Like, my senior year, I was going into the national tournament. Everybody, all the media's had me to be an All-American at the end. I think they had me like taking sixth or something like that, fifth or something. It's top 8. Right. And I was going into the tournament ranked 8th in the country. I didn't place. I've had my heart ripped out. I know what losing feels like, and it's not foreign to me. Like, it was 4 years ago now, but like, I remember that shit like it was yesterday. I remember laying underneath the outside of the bleachers in Cleveland, Ohio, bawling my eyes out for like an hour. My coach left and had to come back and was like, "Yeah, he's still here," and pick me up. And like, I remember everything like it was just yesterday. So I'm not like arrogant in my head in the thought that I'm undefeated and I'm not going to lose and I don't know what it's like to lose and all that. I know what it's like to lose. I know the pain. The physical pain is obviously different, but the pain that really hurts people is the mental pain. Right? Tomorrow, waking up 2 months ago, the injuries are gone. You're no longer sore. 2 months, you wake up. That pain, like, I know what that's like. I've lost lots of times, and yeah, so I don't feel as if I'm just Mr. Undefeated. I definitely want to win every fight that I can be, but I know what it's like to lose.
I think that's a great answer because I didn't even take that into account, actually, right? Your whole career, right? It was Wyoming that you went to
Yeah,
school. Yeah.
correct.
So you've definitely
Pretty
felt
good.
those hardships, man, for sure. You felt those hardships. So, I mean, I think that's probably something that's even helped you get to this point, right? Being undefeated. And I'm sure that, having successful veterans of the game, I'm sure that doesn't, we spoke about that a little bit, but I'm sure that doesn't hurt either.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, right, when you're training there, right, since you are so, how long have you been training in MMA specifically?
I just had a notification on November 2nd. I had my first amateur fight 3 years ago.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're still so young in the game. You know how, like, when you're young in something and you're learning about it, improvements are at like a far more, like, improve at a far larger pace, right? Early on, right? Because you're
Yeah.
starting to learn. Do you still feel that? Do you see like drastic improvements from like day to day, week to week, month to month? Or you're like, wow, I got a lot better in this department.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't personally feel it like in the moment, but like, I'll go a month or two without training with you, let's say, right? And then, that month or two later, we'll train together. And then, you or your coach be like, "Dang, bro, like, that shit's really working," or whatever it may be. Like, I've had a lot of people tell me that, like, "Dang, since the last time we sparred, you've gotten a lot better." So I don't like feel it in the moment. Like, you don't see your kid really getting taller because you see them every single day. And then somebody will
Mm.
come up like, "Dang, you got big." And you're like, "What?"
Yeah.
It's that same similar process. Like, I don't really notice my growth all the time. I do know that I am getting better. I do believe that every single day that I like clock in, I'm like, man, I just got better today. Like, I do believe that. And then, a month or two goes by, and then like I get to display it. And it's like, yeah, man, I'm like, I'm blessed. I'm just happy and fortunate and blessed to like continue to chase this journey, and I'm getting better every day. I don't just believe that, but it's true. Like, it is happening.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. I hear all that. You said in a press conference after your last fight that you wanted to improve your ground game, specifically your jujitsu. Has that been a main, has that been a focal point in your camp?
Yeah, yeah. Since that last fight, I definitely have been. I make it to like 3 jiu-jitsu classes like strictly jiu-jitsu every week. So like it's definitely, I wouldn't say that was like my focal point. Like it's all revolving around just making sure that I get better at jiu-jitsu or anything.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's definitely like a focus that I want to get better at. Like
Hmm.
I don't need to be a black belt. I don't need to be a blue belt. I don't need to be a purple or whatever. Brown belt. I don't need to. I don't care about what the color of my belt is. I just need to be able to defend your submissions, find a couple of my own, and know just how to properly control another jiu-jitsu guy who's down there on the bottom, who's a little bit wiry and scrambly, and then just give him hell while I'm on top of him. That's what I'm looking for. As long as I get the gold belt, you can have the black one. I don't care.
Yeah, for sure, man. And it's back to what I said about GSP. Maybe that kind of reminds me is, he wanted to be good in every department, right? Like you see a lot of
Yeah,
specialists now and today where they're dominant in wrestling. I mean, you see another specialist, he's a dominant kickboxer or whatever, but you want to be good in all facets, kind of like
yeah,
similar to fighters like that. So, that's kind of where I would take those comparisons from when I said that earlier.
yeah.
Speaking of that though, are there like any legends of the game that you look at that you like to mold your game after?
Oh man. Yeah, just being growing up a wrestler and weird enough that we ended up being so close, but I like Kamaru. Um,
That's
uh,
definitely a
so
guy you could look up to.
yeah, yeah. So it ended up being a little bit weird, like when we became like really close friends and training partners and stuff. I was like, oh shit! Like he walked in the room one day. The first time I met him, he like walked in the room. And was like, oh shit, that's Kamaru. I was
When
like,
did you
damn,
meet him?
what I do? Probably during was Masvidal 2 before or after Burns? Do you know?
Masvidal 2 was after Burns, I think.
Okay. So I
Yeah.
think it was like during the Burns fight, like during
Okay.
that camp. Yeah,
Gotcha.
he came to the wrestling practice and I was like, looked at a corner of my eye and there he was. I was like, oh shit, what I do? And I like went to go give him knuckles. And we had met actually a while before that. But then like we like talked a little bit and then I came up and I went to go give him knuckles and then he just like walked past me and I was like, and I looked around to see if anybody saw it. Somebody was laughing at me. I was like, But and then he felt all bad, came back and said what's up. But like guys like him and Daniel Cormier, um, those are both like really respected wrestlers to me who have obviously climbed to the top. Um, and then there's just other guys that I like really like, but I don't want to like mold my style after them. Like I like Rampage. He was like one of my first favorite fighters ever. And then like Brock Lesnar, I love Brock, and Anderson Silva's my all-time GOAT. He's the best. Obviously, he in the past couple of years haven't been the nicest to him, but when
Yeah.
he was at prime, man, he made that shit look like the Matrix.
Yeah, I wish that guy had retired a while ago because I just think his prime years were so good already. But it's
Yeah,
a whole nother conversation. Speaking of Kamaru Usman, you got, he's around circles of guys like Khabib, Ali and all that. But speaking of Khabib specifically, right? You had an Eagle FC fight, right? Between your two
yep,
Bellator fights. How did that
yep.
whole thing come about? And can we, is there a chance we could see you back at Eagle FC for another maybe big fight?
Yeah, for sure. As far as I know, I have Ollie is also my manager,
Right.
and he's I'm pretty sure I can fight for both organizations. So yeah, I definitely would fight for Bella or for Eagle again. I think I don't know why they haven't flown to States in a little bit, but yeah, I don't really want to fly all the way over to Russia right now and fight over there right now at the moment. But if yeah, I definitely would love to fight for them again. They ran a good, clean promotion and great hospitality, similar to Bellator. So it was
Yeah.
yeah,
Seems like an up and coming promotion, man. That's why I'm excited about that. And it'd be exciting to see you maybe in there, back in that Eagle FC cage again in the future.
yeah,
But it's also nice because you're not in like the UFC, for example, where you wouldn't be able to do something like that.
yeah.
Right. So is it nice to be at Bellator? Like, how's the experience been since you've been here? It's one of the best promotions in the world, right? I've been a fan of Bellator for a long time. What's it like? Just the atmosphere, you know, the upper ups, like dealing with them. Like, how's it all been?
It was really good. Honestly, I met Scott Coker at the last fight. I got to like tap him on the shoulder and just introduce myself. Got a handshake and nice to meet you and everything back, and just a real brief conversation. And then everybody else who like helps out and keeps the ship running, man, they're awesome. Like So my last fight that I had in July was on my birthday, July 22nd.
Right.
Right. So when I came in on fight day to do my little shakeout run, warm up over at the hotel, like locker room, you know, I walked in and all the ladies, like the staff, they just started singing happy birthday to me. And I was like, oh shit.
It wasn't
It
your
was
birthday
cool.
until 4:30, right?
I know. Not until 4:30. Good job. Dang. Yeah. They started singing happy birthday and I was like, thank you guys. Thank you guys. So that was just cool. Like they took the extra time to like I wasn't sitting there the whole week and like walking in checking in like, hey, it's my birthday this week. Like they
Yeah.
just knew it, you know. So it was cool. Like I never told them that it was my birthday. Tomorrow's my birthday. They like told me. It was cool. So they have great hospitality. They do a great job. Yeah, I have no complaints.
Yeah, absolutely. And how could you have complaints, right? You're at the top of your game right now, man. You're you know, undefeated, up and coming prospect in the sport that everyone's excited to watch. And we do appreciate the time. I have one more question for you. You know,
Yes,
what can the fans expect to see from you at Bellator 288, man? When that cage door closes, you know, a win is never guaranteed, but just overall, what can we expect to see?
yeah, expect a composed individual, but explosive, athletic, and aggressive.
Absolutely. I like it, man. Sweet and simple to the point.
Yeah.
Guys, Archie Colgan, he takes on Jesse Hanan, Bellator 288 in about 10 days or so. Thanks for coming on the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me. Let's go.